Good evening and welcome to J is for Justice. I am your host, Jay, and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, please consider clicking that subscribe button. And if you like what you see, please give me a little tiny thumbs up. Before I bring the panel on, I just wanted to welcome everyone to chat tonight, everybody who's listening as well. We do have a membership tier program here that we do special things for members. And if you would like to become a member, the link will be in the chat tonight. So without further ado, we are going to begin our trek through the Tate murders. In the words of Susan Atkins, a.k.a. Hair Lip, a.k.a. Sexy Sadie, a.k.a. Poop Butt.
Bundy's a rumpkin. Bundy's a poop butt. Bundy's his mama's boy.
All right, let's get to it, guys. The Tate murders, in the words of Susan Atkins. One day, a little man came in with a guitar and started singing for a group of us in that place where we were living, in Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco. Even before I saw him, while I was in the kitchen, his voice just hypnotized me, mesmerized me. Then when I saw him, I fell absolutely in love with him. I found out later his name was Charles Manson, but he had other names too, and so would I. He gave me nothing but love, complete love, gave me the answers to all the questions I've ever had in my mind. This whole world and everybody and everything in it has been God's game, and that game is just about to come to an end. Judgment Day for every human being on the face of the earth is coming. But that night, I met Charlie in that house on Lime Street. I had no idea I would be there when God's game ended for Sharon Tate, with me holding her in my arms. And when it was all over, I didn't want to go back in that house. But something made me go. I went over to Sharon Tate and I flashed, wow, there's a living being in there. I wanted to, but I couldn't bring myself to cut her open and take the baby. I knew it was living. I knew it wouldn't live. That night, Charlie instructed us to go to Sharon's. We were still living up at the Spawn Ranch in Chatsworth. We hadn't moved out to Death Valley yet. Charlie instructed me and Tex, a girl by the name of Linda, and Katie, that's Patricia Krenwinkel. Well, Charlie instructed us to go to this particular house and gave us a car. It was a 58 or 59 black Chevy, and told us to get 2 changes of clothes, basically black. We had been buying black clothes for what we call creepy crawlies. We'd go around and creepy crawly people's houses. We wouldn't take anything, just for the experience of getting the fear and bringing ourselves out of it. Actually, he instructed us in the details through Tex. He just told me to do everything Tex said to do. Charlie had control over everybody. I never questioned what Charlie said. I just did it. And he instructed us to get the clothes and our knives and such. And the four of us got in the car and started going to this place. Then Tex explained the situation to us, but honestly, I really had no knowledge of what was happening till we got there. Tex told me that he and Charlie had been up to that house before. That's why they chose the house. Tex told me the house used to belong to Mr. Melcher. That's Terry Melcher, Doris Day's son. But he said that Mr. Melcher didn't live there anymore. But the reason Charlie picked the house was to instill fear into Terry Melcher, because Terry had given his word on a few things and never came through with them. So Charlie wanted to put some fear into him, let him know that what Charlie said was the way it is. I had no idea who lived in the house when we were driving up there. Not when we got there, and not even after it was all over. I don't guess anyone else did either. Not Charlie, not Tex, no one. Not till the next day when it came over TV. When I saw the faces again, it blew my mind. As we drove, Tex began explaining the setup of the house for us. We had a set of bolt cutters with us and rope, and Tex had a gun. Each one of us had a knife. I'm not sure whether the gun Tex had was Charlie's or not. All I know is that the gun was used in previous killings and that it was the gun he used to target practice with on the ranch. We drove up to the house, turned the car around, and parked it between the gate and a neighbor's house. We got out of the car and got the bolt cutter. Tex climbed up the telephone pole and snipped 2 wires, hoping they were telephone wires. I guess they were. The lights on the house stayed on. Then we got back in the car, drove down the hill, and parked the car at the base of the hill, but a little ways up, so it wouldn't look too suspicious. So it would look like it belonged there in the neighborhood. We walked back up the hill to that metal gate, which was closed. We didn't touch the gate because we didn't know if it was electrified or not, whether there was an alarm system that we didn't want to set off. We saw a fence up a slope from the roadway, and we decided to try that.
Well, we climbed up the hill, and there was a place where we could climb over the fence. So we went over the fence, the 4 of us, and all of a sudden we saw a light coming out along the driveway inside the grounds. We knew it was a car. Tex told us to lie down and be still. So we all just did exactly that. Just laid down and kept quiet. And just as the car drove into our sight, I couldn't actually see what happened, but I heard Tex say, "Stop, halt." Then Tex had a gun on this young boy, and I heard the boy say, "Please don't hurt me, I won't say anything." Then the gun went off 4 times. And Tex came back and said, "Come on," and we proceeded to go. But the young boy who was killed in the car, his death, I felt very hard about it when I saw it had happened. And all of a sudden, I found out I was at the front door. Well, there's a window right next to it. Tex, he lifted up and opened the window, climbed inside and went around and opened the front door. We had no idea how many people were in the house. When we got into the living room, there was a man sleeping on the couch. The back of his head was facing me. He had on a kind of mod outfit. The pants fitted low. Tex went up to the couch and the man woke up thinking, I guess, that it was his friend. He said, "What time is it?" And Tex stood in front with the gun and said, "Don't move or you're dead." Then Tex motioned for us to come and stand behind the couch. Just Katie and I had gone in. We left Linda outside to listen for sounds. It surprised me that nobody heard the gunshots that killed the young boy. But they weren't that loud. It was a quiet gun. And anyway, Tex told me to go down the hall and check the other rooms. So I went down the hall and found a bedroom. I went in, and this girl put down the book that she was reading and looked at me. I smiled and waved. I knew they turned on just looking at the house. They hide it from society, but just looking at them, I knew they used narcotics. I guess she thought I was a friend. So then I looked in the other bedroom and saw Sharon Tate and the younger man, a shorter man. J. Sebring. He was in a see-through shorty nightgown, wearing a kind of halter underneath it. But they were just talking and didn't see me. I came back out to the living room and told Tex, "There's 3 more in there." And so he told me to go look for the bathroom and get a towel and tie up the man on the couch. I couldn't find it at first, but I finally did. It was a big house. I was shaking so bad I couldn't tie his hands, but I got the towel around even though I couldn't pull it tight. And he was just so petrified. He just laid down there and didn't say a word. And he kept asking Tex, "What do you want? What do you want? Who are you?" And Tex said, "I'm the devil. I'm here to do the devil's business. We want all your money. Where's your money?" He said, "My money's in my wallet on the desk." Tex told me to go over and look at the desk. And I said, "Tex, it's not there." And then Tex said, "Go in and get the other people and bring them out here." So I took out my knife and I went in and stood by Abigail Folger's bed and said, "Go out in the living room. Don't ask any questions." I went into Sharon Tate's room and told her and the man to go out in the living room.
I guess the 3 of them went along so easily because they were pretty much terrified by what was going on. After that, everything just got wild. I'm not sure of the order in which it all happened. I can only see it in flashes, but it seems that Tex tied the 3 of them, Sebring, Sharon, and Miss Folger, together, wound the rope around them, and then threw it over a beam so I could pull it tight. And then the way it flashes now, it was all a panic. "What's going on?" J. Sebring said, and proceeded to advance on Tex. I don't know how he got loose, and Tex shot him, and he fell on the floor. I think he fell on his side because I saw him lying on his side. And then Sharon went through a few changes, quite a few changes. I mean, her facial expressions. "Wow. Oh my God, no," she said. Miss Folger didn't say anything. She just stood there. The man on the couch, I hadn't done a very good job of tying him up with that towel I found in the bathroom. He kept working to get it loose. But Tex said to him again, "Where's your money?" Then Sharon or Abigail, I can't get a picture of which now, said, "My money's in my wallet." Tex instructed me to get it out of her wallet, and I untied her, and she led me back to the bedroom, and I told her, "You get it out." She handed me $72 or $73 and said that's all she had, and asked, "Do you want my credit cards?" I said no. Then I proceeded to lead her back into the living room and tied her back up and put the rope back over the beam. One of the ladies cried, "What are you going to do with us?" Tex said, "You're all going to die." This caused immediate panic, and Tex ordered me to kill the big man on the couch. While I went over to him and I raised my knife, and I hesitated. And as I hesitated, he reached up and grabbed my hair and started pulling my hair. So I had to fight for my life as far as I was concerned. We fell against a chair that was next to the couch. He was fighting and I was kicking him. I was all of a sudden fighting for my life. Wow. Then I proceeded to stab him 5 or 6 times in the leg, but I would say it was in self-defense. I, luckily enough, had the knife in my hand because the man was big and with one whack, he could have, wow. And then while this was going on, Abigail was getting loose and fighting with Katie, and Linda, we found out later, heard some of the noise and went back down and sat in the car. So we had no watch for the outside. Well, as this went on, all of this confusion, I just don't remember what happened. Except, I remember seeing the man I had stabbed, trying to go outside. He was yelling for his life. I was hanging on to him, I think, and I yelled, "Tex, help me, do something." Then, in the excitement, Tex must have shot him in the back as he was running out, then followed him and hit him over the head with the butt of the gun. It broke the gun handle, and then the gun wouldn't work anymore. So he began stabbing the man. While he was stabbing, the man was still screaming. I'm surprised no one heard anything. The man was pretty much half dead on the porch. That's where all the blood was, I imagine. Before he ever got to the lawn, well, Sharon was starting to get loose from the rope, and the Folger girl already had broken loose and was fighting with Katie. I was just standing there watching. There wasn't much I could do because I couldn't find my knife. I couldn't find it when we left, so I figured that I had lost it in the house, which threw a paranoia into me as we left. But anyway, I went over and got Sharon and put her in a headlock. She didn't fight me, I just held her. At times it seemed so easy. When she began begging me to let her go so that she could have her baby, and wow, I realized she was pregnant. A flash in the midst of all of that.
I ran to the gate. Tex and Kate already were standing on the other side. Then the next thing I knew, I was standing there too. We walked toward the car, but we couldn't see Linda. We thought she'd disappeared. We didn't know where she was. We called for her, but not too loudly. Charlie, I guess through Tex, had instructed us to go to the neighbor's house and do the same thing. What we had done in the place we had just left. We want to push the button that opens the neighbor's gate. Tex pushed the button, but I don't think he used his fingers. I think he used his arm or something. I just can't tell why we didn't go through with it. I can't see it now. Can't flash it into my mind. But we picked up our clothes, which we had stashed by the gate. We knelt down and picked up our second change of clothes. Then we walked down the road to where the car was. Walked not too conspicuous. And then we got to the car. There was Linda in it already, with her second clothes. She had begun to start the car, and Tex told her to get over. We all got into the car, and there was nothing but just exhaustion. And we all had blood on us. So we changed our clothes in the car as we were driving. I was in the right seat, and Tex was driving. We went for a ride to look for a place to dump the bloody black clothes. We drove along a steep embankment. I've got a picture in my mind, and all it shows me is the side of the mountain and a road. I just sat back in my seat, slumped down. I don't remember where we were, and I didn't pay any attention. Linda had all the weapons, all but my knife, up in the front seat. We stopped and Linda got out of the car, I'm sure of that, and threw all the clothes, all drippy with blood, and Tex's gun and the knives, as far as she could, over the side of the embankment down a ravine. I guess you'd call it. We continued to drive until we got down to a residential area. I know it was close to Sunset Boulevard. We flipped down a couple of side streets to look for a dark house, and we found one. We got out of the car, walked up the street, and we found a big house. We were looking for a place to wash the blood off our hands and faces. All I remember is that big house. It had a lot of shrubbery around it, around the front. We began looking for a water hose, and when we found it, we turned it on, went right out into the street, and proceeded to wash ourselves off. How about that? Right there in the street. All this happened spontaneously. We didn't plan any of it. It was all spontaneous. Then all of a sudden, we heard an old man and an old woman coming out of the house. "What are you people doing?" they yelled. And they went on like that, blah, blah, blah. The old woman began screeching. "My houseman belongs to the sheriff's reserve, and I'm going to have him report this. What are you doing?" Tex just looked at the old man and the old woman. He just looked at them and smiled. And then he said, "Cool as you please." Wow. So cool. "We're just getting a drink of water. Sorry we disturbed you." The old man said, "Is that your car down the street there?" "No, we're walking," Tex told him. "Like, cool, man." He said real low to us, "Okay, girls, get in the car. And we double fast walked to the car. The old man and woman kept walking behind us, and when we got to it, the old woman still was jabbering away. Take down their license number. But the old man said he didn't have anything to write it down with. Tex got in the car and started it, and the man came up and reached in to take the keys, evidently knowing something suspicious was going on. Tex flooded the motor, but then got it going, put it in low, and took off.
Practically broke the old man's hand, from what I could tell. I just flashed, wow. That was a strange house to pick, out of all the houses. And then we drove down the road and made a couple of turns and stopped at a gas station. The purpose was, we were almost out of gas. We bought some gas, and the three of us girls took turns going into the bathroom, checking for blood spots and making sure that we were clean. Tex did the same, but as we drove off and all the way out to the ranch, I noticed there was blood on the car and hoped nobody had seen it. When we got back to the ranch, I went in the kitchen of our hangout, an abandoned Western movie set, and got a rag and proceeded to wipe down the whole car for blood. I don't know where it was, really, but I knew if there was any, like I thought I'd seen, it would be on the steering wheel and on the door handles as well. Then Charlie came up and said, "What are you doing home so early?" We girls went down to what we called the bunkhouse and went in, and there was Brenda. Pretty soon, along came Charlie and Tex, and we all sat back. I almost passed out. It was like I wasn't there. It was like a seance. I was sitting there trying to pay attention to what Charlie was saying, and I just couldn't handle it. I laid back on the floor, and I felt as though I was being killed. And Charlie and Tex told me that I would be killed if I betrayed their trust. Charlie, he told me many times, "Sadie, you've been with me 2 years now. For a long time. If you ever decide to leave, I'll take you and hang you upside down and slit your throat and use you as an example for everybody else." But it made no difference to me. Charlie was me, and I was Charlie, and all of us were one at the ranch. And when we got back from Sharon's that night, he just acted as though it had never happened. Charlie is the type that lives for each second and pays no mind to what may happen 2 seconds later. That's how much he is with it. So Charlie said nothing about what happened at Sharon's, and I went in and slept for a while. But first, I think I made love with Clem. I'm not sure who I made love with, or if I even made love that night. And when I woke up, it just hit me. I wanted to go and look at the television news reports because I knew it would be in the news. I went into what I called the trailer, an area located next to the spawn house, and there was this little TV in there. I turned on the news, and that was the first thing that hit. I went wild, and quick ran out and got Katie and told her to come watch the television with me. It was on the news. I called Linda in, and then I called Tex in, and then I called Clem in, because Clem knew about it. He had been in the bunkhouse when we got back. Charlie wasn't awake. We watched the newscast, and it kind of really helped me to know that the people were as important as they were. It blew my mind. All of us watching made a few comments like, "Well, the soul really picked a good one this time." Just happened to have been Sharon Tate, a movie actress, and it happened to have made nationwide and worldwide news, which we had no knowledge that that's what it would do. There was a comment made by one of us that what had happened had served its purpose. That was to instill fear in man himself. Man, the establishment. That's what it was done for. To instill fear, to cause paranoia. To show the black man how to go about taking over white man. Then I could just put what had happened out of my mind the best I could. But I couldn't. I just had nothing but pictures and flashes. It was so vivid, I just accepted it and sat and watched the pictures in my mind. I tried to appear normal and did my work at the ranch. But I would look at Katie, and Katie would look at me, and we both know that was the utmost thing in our minds, that we couldn't put it out of our minds. It was right there. And I'd look at Charlie, and he'd wink at me and give me reassurance that everything was okay, was going to be all right. Not that he had said it out loud. He didn't have to say it. I just felt it. That's the way Charlie was. He didn't need to speak. He just came on. Tex seemed his normal self, just as happy and go lucky as could be. But everybody on the ranch was pretty quiet. Everybody on the ranch, and there might have been 25 or 30 of us, though people came and went, knew by then there had been a killing. But they didn't know who had done it. That night we got together, smoked some grass, and sang some songs.
I was tired of listening to the news. All I heard on the news was Tate, Tate, Tate. I just shut it off. Now I'm exhausted again. The flashes and the pictures have stopped coming. I can't tell about it anymore. Anyway, I haven't time. My lawyer's coming soon, and he's bringing me a dish of vanilla ice cream. Vanilla ice cream really blows my mind.
N-A-N-S-O-N.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, Stephen K. from the District Attorney's Office in Los Angeles, and my last name is spelled K-A-Y.
Stephen K. from his mother.
K-I-G-G-A-S.
It's like, did you really just say that, Charlie?
My last name is
N-A-N-S-O-N.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, Stephen K. from the District Attorney's Office in Los Angeles, and my last name is spelled K-A-Y.
Stephen K. from his mother.
K-I-G-G-A-S. Constitution for Representative.
This is the press release from the autopsy, sir, of the 5 victims has been completed, and the cause of death as follows. Miss Abigail Folger, the cause of death, stab wounds of the chest causing a massive hemorrhage, and there are also stab wounds in other areas. And Mrs. Sharon Pulaski, the cause of death is multiple stab wounds of the chest and back causing penetration of the various vital organs and resulting massive internal hemorrhage. Mr. Stephen E. Parent, the cause of death is multiple gunshot wound of the chest and the various organs and causing a massive hemorrhage. Mr. Wojciech Prokowski, the cause of death is stab wound of the body and extremities and what? Extremities and gunshot wound of back. And Mr. J. Sibling, stab wounds of the body causing penetration of the vital organs and resulting in massive internal hemorrhage. Lieutenant?
Could you read Aaron again? Aaron.
Pardon me?
They want the cause of death on it.
Okay. Lieutenant, do you have a comment?
Gentlemen, a rough estimate as to the time of death. As you're all aware, the telephone wires were cut at the house. We do know that the phone was in operating condition at approximately 10 p.m. and was not in a working condition at approximately 5:30 a.m.
Is it your opinion, Lieutenant, that one man could have perpetrated all these?
Of course, anything is possible. We have no solid information which will limit us to a single suspect. In some of the activities that we've...
Doctor, have you determined that 3 of the 5 victims were going in different directions at the time of their death?
We have not been able to establish such volitional activity. Information that gathered from the autopsy have been being analyzed at present time.
Would you say that only one man could have committed these crimes, or more than one?
Based on the autopsy findings, we will not be able to tell.
Could parents have committed suicide?
I would say it's very unlikely.
Any scuffling, any circumstances that there was a lot of scuffling, or any sexual attacks or anything of that type?
No.
None at all?
No.
Have you been able to ascertain who died first?
We have not been able to establish for sure.
Have you found any weapons, Dr. Noguchi or Lieutenant?
No, we have no weapons in custody at this time.
Were you able to ascertain whether the victims were taking drugs?
Well, a number of biological specimens have been taken and had being analyzed, and the result may be available in a later date.
Lieutenant, where did the ropes come in? Can you give us that, where the ropes came into the picture that were found?
Well, as to how they were placed there, no, I don't have any, I can't give you any information on it. There are a number of aspects of this case, gentlemen, which I'm not going to be in a position to discuss with the press because they're an integral part of our investigation. And we're going to need some secrecy relative to the physical condition of the house, the position and location of the various bodies, which we have to keep away from the general public.
Lieutenant,
In other words, we're going to be hindering our investigation. Yes.
One gun or 2 used?
Could you outline roughly what you can tell us about the case thus far?
Yes, I can give you a brief outline. Basically, you have all of the information relative to the maid, the approximate time that she arrived at work, the fact that she discovered that the crime had taken place. You people in the news media have more information relative to the background of our victims, with the exception of Stephen Parent, than the department has in its hands right now. We're just getting into that part of the investigation. You're all aware that the telephone wires were cut, which lead into the house. As the doctors indicated on our cause of death, there were multiple stab wounds. Stephen Parent had been shot.
Did it appear that Parent was shot while trying to escape with the handbrake off and the ignition on in the car?
Well, at the time that I arrived at the scene, the car was in a drive position. The ignition was off, and the brake was not set.
Thomas Noguchi, you know what order? Did you establish what order they were killed?
No.
Figure that out at all?
No.
Lieutenant, you've arrested this 19-year-old houseboy.
Yes.
How serious a suspect is Garrison?
I'll tell you right now, at the present time, Garretson is taking a polygraph examination. He has legal counsel with him, and pending the results of that polygraph examination, we're really not in a position to go much further as far as putting out anything which we have connecting him with the crime.
He doesn't know the victims, that he was just there because of the property.
Basically, the information which we have at the present time is that he was a friend of Garretson's, that he had no relationship at all with the people in the front house.
We're talking about Garrison himself, the houseboy.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were referring to Steve Parent.
What about Garrison? The term houseboy was a misnomer.
Yes, completely. Actually, the house is leased The owner of the property had hired Garrettson to stay on the property to watch. This man's an animal lover. There were several dogs, several cats. This was his prime purpose in life up there, was to care for these animals.
So supposedly he didn't even know that.
Well, yeah, he knew them merely because they were on the same property. But we have nothing that shows a detailed connection with the people in the front house.
Has he continued to maintain his innocence?
Yes.
Has he told you anything at all that leads you to believe he might not be a suspect eventually?
Well, other than the fact that he has flatly denied any participation in this, and he has denied anything more than a very, very casual relationship with our victims.
Lieutenant, where did he say he was during the time of the murders?
In the guest house at the rear of the property.
Asleep? And he heard nothing?
Heard nothing.
Are you looking for anybody else in connection with the crimes?
We have some inquiries out on an individual,
Is it
yes.
your theory, Lieutenant, that what telephone wires were cut was somebody going out or before somebody went in?
Gentlemen, I could speculate all day long on that, and we have nothing which, until we get further into this, and our crime lab people have had a chance to examine material which was removed from the telephone pole, etc.
But you said 5:30 a.m. Was there a record of a call out of the house or into the house at 5:30?
No, there was an attempt to place a call from the guest house at approximately 5:30 in the morning, and the telephone was not. By Garrettson, according to his statement.
Lieutenant, why did he want to call him?
Beg pardon?
Why did he try to call him?
He didn't try to call them.
But he tried to use his phone?
Tried to use his phone, yes.
Can you give us any details on the individual that you are now inquiring about?
No.
Lieutenant, were any of the victims known to you or any of the Intelligence Bureau, the narcotics as being narcotics users or being involved with narcotics?
We have made a superficial check along those lines, and we find no connection.
Coroner, Dr. Noguchi, are you continuing tests to find out who died first or in what order? Or is your autopsy concluded?
Well, we have not analyzed the data yet. We will try to ascertain such information if possible.
When will this might be released to you as ascertain the information?
Well, this is a very, very difficult area, even determine.
I'd like to clarify this point relative to the red for.
It always lightens the mood when you end alive with a Manson musing. We are going to end it there, guys. This has been a lot of hard work, and it's been very heavy on all three of us. So we are going to conclude the live here. I hope you will join us on Friday night when we go over the La Bianca murders. And then on Sunday night, we are opening up the phone lines to you guys. So if you would like to call in and tell us what you know, or if you have a question or anything, we're going to open up the phone lines and take your calls. So enjoy your evening, and I hope to see you Friday night. Friday Night Live on J is for Justice.
God almighty.
I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. Damn, 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 damn. You wanna be with me. You wanna feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to get to France, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got time for that.